democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. There's been much attention paid to the 5th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. What went almost unnoticed was another anniversary. It happened a few weeks after the invasion. It was April 8th, 2003, when the U.S. military shelled the Palestine Hotel in Baghdad, killing 2 journalists, Reuters cameraman Protsyuk and Jose Couso, a cameraman for the Spanish television network Telecinco. Just over a year ago, a Spanish judge indicted 3 U.S. soldiers in the killings: Sergeant Sean Gibson, Captain Philip Wolford, and Lieutenant Colonel Philip DeCamp. The 3 men were charged with homicide and committing a crime against the international community. The Bush administration has refused to hand over the soldiers for trial and has not charged them here in the United States. The Spanish Supreme Court recently affirmed Spain's jurisdiction over the case. The Pentagon has defended the attack on the Palestine Hotel, calling the killings accidental. The soldiers involved claimed they were targeting insurgents who'd fired rocket-propelled grenades. But several holes have emerged in the U.S. account. The Palestine Hotel was a well-known place for journalists covering the Iraq War. The U.S. tanks were at too far a distance to be hit by rocket-propelled grenades from the hotel. Witnesses reported hearing almost no gunfire from the area around the hotel in the hours leading up to the U.S. attack. And earlier that day, 2 other media outlets had also been hit by U.S. strikes: the Abu Dhabi television network and the satellite network Al Jazeera, killing correspondent Tariq Ayoub. In a few moments, I'll be joined by an Iraq War veteran who says she has new information that could point to a deliberate U.S. attack on the Palestine Hotel. But first, I want to turn to the documentary Hotel Palestine, Killing the Witness. Produced by Jose Couso's network Telecinco, it was broadcast on Spanish television. It includes interviews with numerous journalists who were inside the Palestine Hotel and helped rush Jose Couso to the hospital. This clip begins with scenes taken inside the Palestine Hotel moments after the U.S. attack. A warning to our television audience: some footage contains graphic images.
The shell explodes before hitting the hotel facade and sprays the upper floors with shrapnel. The Reuters room suffers the dramatic consequences. Near the balcony, the cameraman Protsyuk receives the full blast and collapses, mortally wounded. Paul Pasquale finds himself on the floor, covered with blood.
Come on, guys, come on, guys. Come on, guys, come here. Come on, guys. Come on. On the bed, on the bed, on the bed. Slow, on the bed.
I couldn't believe that it was the Americans until I reached Couso, who was conscious, who was awake, and he told me it was the tank.
Suddenly, we saw a damaged balcony. It was the 15th floor. I started to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15. They've hit the Reuters room. The first thing I thought was, damn it, Couso is right below there.
It was a tank because Couso saw how they shot him. He was looking at the tank when he was hit. He was aware of who killed him.
And then I saw the camera on the floor, destroyed, and the pool of blood. That moment is frozen in my mind. I remember I started saying, my God, my God.
Water, water, water. ¿Tú estás respirando bien? ¿Bien, chato?
Several people help prepare Couso for transport to the hospital. They place him on a mattress and tie an emergency tourniquet. If they fail to stop the bleeding, he won't make it to the hospital.
An Iraqi man who I didn't know at all, and who we should be grateful to the rest of our lives, offered me his car, an old Soviet Lada, and we managed to put Couso inside, with the help of Jorge Pliego, a Mexican cameraman who was extremely close to Couso.
We pulled him into a car, and the whole time I was talking to Couso. I knew him pretty well. I knew his wife's name was Lola, that he had 2 children. On the way to the hospital, I spoke to him. Couso, you have to put your strength into this. You have 2 children. Lola's waiting for you. You have to fight hard.
Okay, listen. Calmo. Please. Calmo. Camera away, please. Camera away.
I told him it had to be like in the movies. He couldn't fall asleep or faint. He had to keep talking, so he could reach the hospital strong and determined. And he agreed. He said, fine then, just like in the movies.
At one point he said, my leg is a mess, isn't it? No, when we get there we'll sew it up, I said. I was especially struck by the fact that Couso never complained.
Then he said, why did the tank fire at us? Where are you taking me? What's happening? Are they filming me? Are they not filming me? Don't let my family see it. Don't let my children see me.
Jose Couso died in the hospital. Scenes from the attack on the Palestine Hotel from the documentary Hotel Palestine, Killing the Witness. It was produced by Jose's network Telecinco in Spain. I'm joined now by Adrienne Kinne. She's a former Army sergeant who worked in military intelligence in Iraq. She served in the military for 10 years, from 1994 to 2004. She joins us now from Burlington, Vermont. We welcome you, Adrienne Kinne, to Democracy Now! Adrienne, can you hear me? We will go to a music break. Adrienne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Adrienne, can you talk about your work in military intelligence in the lead up to the invasion and after the invasion? Tell us what you were doing and where you were.
I was stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I was actually mobilized shortly after 9/11 with a group of reservists who were eventually sent to Fort Gordon to work a mission that it was actually a brand new mission. It was something not like anything I had done in military intelligence previously. And this new mission involved the intercept of satellite phone communications in Iraq and Afghanistan, and basically a huge swath of the region around those 2 countries. It was really brand new, and basically there were about 20 of us who were put in charge of this new mission to stand it up. In the very beginning, basically what we did was we would have a front end which intercepted satellite phone communications in that region, and then it would transmit the satellite phone conversations back to the United States, where it would just fill up this queue in our computer, and we would just go through, and all the numbers were unidentified. So at the beginning, it was just a matter of sifting through thousands upon thousands of unidentified satellite phone communications as we kind of tried to sort out what phone number belonged to who, and kind of go through the process of identifying phone numbers in the search for intelligence that might be related to operations in Afghanistan and then later on Iraq.
And when were you listening to Iraq?
We started listening to the entire region pretty much immediately. I think this was December of 2001. And I was mobilized from October 2001 through August of 2003. So I was working that mission pretty much from December through August of 2003. And over the course of my time, as we slowly began to identify phone numbers and who belonged to what, one thing that gave me grave concern was that as we identified phone numbers, we started to find more and more and more numbers that belonged not to any organizations affiliated with terrorism or with military with militaries of Iraq or Afghanistan or elsewhere, but with humanitarian aid organizations, non-governmental organizations, to include the International Red Cross, Red Crescent, Doctors Without Borders, a whole host of humanitarian aid organizations, and it also included journalists.
Journalists where?
I remember bits and pieces of what we listened to while I was activated. I'd just like to say that at the time, I took my clearance incredibly seriously. I had a very high clearance military intelligence, and I never took notes. I never brought anything outside of our building. I never talked about my experiences with my friends or family. But there were certain things that happened over the course of our mobilization that struck me